That evening, as my daughter's birthday party fell into chaos and my son-in-law screamed across the table, "Either give Sarah what's rightfully hers or admit you never loved her," in front of 40 guests, I understood something my late husband warned me about 8 years ago. There are people who see family as love and people who see family as opportunity. My name is Dorothy. I am 64 years old, and this is the story of how a jewelry box almost destroyed my family, but ultimately saved my daughter's life. It started 3 months before that birthday dinner. I was in my garden in Newton, just outside Boston, pruning the hydrangeas Thomas planted before he died. The September air smelled like fallen leaves and wood smoke. My daughter Sarah pulled into the driveway in that new Mercedes I knew she couldn't afford. She got out wearing a designer dress, expensive heels, her hair done professionally. She looked beautiful. She looked expensive. She looked nervous. "Mom," she said, kissing my cheek, "we need to talk about the jewelry." The jewelry. The 5-piece Victorian collection that Thomas's grandmother brought from England in 1889. A diamond and sapphire necklace, matching earrings, a brooch, a bracelet, and a ring. Appraised 8 years ago at $375,000. Worth considerably more now. The pieces I promised Sarah when the time was right. The same pieces Brandon, her husband of 4 years, had been asking about for the past 6 months. "What about the jewelry?" I asked, though I already knew. "Brandon thinks we should have it now. You know, for investment purposes. He's a financial advisor, Mom. He knows how to protect assets, grow them. Right now they're just sitting in your safe deposit box doing nothing." I wiped the dirt from my hands slowly. "They're doing something, sweetheart. They're being safe. But what if something happens to you? What if there's a fire, a robbery? Brandon says we should move them to a more secure facility, one that's insured for their full value. My bank is insured, not like what Brandon can arrange." She pulled out her phone, showed me brochures. "Look, this facility in New York specializes in high-value jewelry, climate-controlled, biometric security, the works. We could store them there until I actually inherit them." "Which is when?" She looked away. "Well, Dad's will said when you decided I was ready." "Exactly. But Mom, I'm 36 years old. I'm married. I have a career. When am I going to be ready?" I looked at my daughter, at the woman who used to sit with me in this same garden making daisy chains, who cried on my shoulder when her college boyfriend broke her heart, who held my hand at her father's funeral and promised we'd take care of each other always. That girl was ready. This woman standing before me, dressed in clothes she couldn't afford, repeating her husband's words like a script, she wasn't. "Sarah, why does Brandon care so much about jewelry he's never even seen? He doesn't care about it. He cares about me, about my inheritance, about making sure it's protected. Then he should trust that I'm protecting it just fine." Her face hardened. It was an expression I'd seen more and more since she married Brandon. "You know what? Never mind. I should have known you'd make this difficult. You always do." She left without staying for coffee, without asking about my health, my week, my life. She just got in her Mercedes and drove away, and I stood there in my garden wondering when my daughter learned to walk away from me so easily. That night, I pulled out the letter Thomas wrote before he died. I kept it in my nightstand, in the same wooden box where he kept his father's watch. I'd read it 100 times, but I needed to read it again. "My dearest Dorothy, if you're reading this letter about the jewelry, it means someone is pressuring you. I want you to know that I thought carefully about how to protect Sarah's inheritance. The jewelry doesn't go to her automatically because I know our daughter. She's kind, generous, trusting, maybe too trusting. She might meet someone who sees those pieces not as family history but as dollar signs. Wait, my love. Wait until you're absolutely certain she understands their value, not in money but in meaning. These pieces survived World War II. They crossed an ocean. They've been worn at weddings and christenings for 5 generations. They're not investments. They're witnesses to our family's story. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise, not even our daughter, especially not if she's being convinced by someone else. Trust your instincts. I always did. I love you always, Thomas." 2 weeks later, Brandon showed up at my house unannounced. It was a Thursday afternoon. I was baking apple pie, the kind Sarah used to love as a child. He knocked loudly, didn't wait for me to put down my rolling pin before letting himself in with Sarah's key. "Dorothy," he said, "not Mom, never Mom, always Dorothy. We need to talk." He was a handsome man, I'll give him that. 40 years old, tall, athletic build, expensive suit, perfect teeth. He worked at a prestigious investment firm in downtown Boston. He drove a Porsche. He belonged to country clubs I'd never heard of. When Sarah first brought him home, I tried to like him. I really did. But there was something about the way he looked at things in my house. Calculating, assessing, like a jeweler examining stones. "I'm in the middle of baking," I said. "This won't take long." He sat at my kitchen table without being invited. "Look, I'm going to be direct because I think we're both adults here. Sarah's birthday is next month. She's going to be 37. Her father promised her that jewelry. And frankly, it's time. Her father promised she'd receive it when I felt she was ready. And when is that? When she's 50? 60? When you're dead?" I set down the rolling pin. "Excuse me? I'm just being honest. You're 64 years old. Statistically, you could live another 20 years, or you could have a heart attack tomorrow. Sarah deserves to have what's hers while she can actually enjoy it. The jewelry is mine until I decide otherwise. Thomas left it to me with instructions." "Instructions you're interpreting however you want." He leaned forward. "Let me tell you what I think. I think you like the power. You like having something Sarah wants, something you can dangle over her head. It's control. It's protection." "From what? From me?" He laughed. "I'm a financial advisor, Dorothy. I manage portfolios worth tens of millions. I'm trying to help your daughter secure her future, and you're treating me like I'm some kind of thief." "I don't know what you are, Brandon. That's the problem." His face changed. The charming smile disappeared. "You know what your problem is? You can't accept that Sarah doesn't need you anymore. She has a husband. She has her own life. And she's tired of waiting for permission from a bitter old widow who won't let go." I felt the words like a slap, but I didn't let him see it. "This conversation is over. Please leave my house." "I'll leave when I'm ready." He stood up, looked around my kitchen. Nice place. Old but nice. Probably worth what, $500,000? Plus whatever other assets you're hoarding. "You know, when you die, Sarah gets everything anyway. You're just making her wait for no reason. Get out. We're having a birthday party for Sarah next month. 40 guests. Waterfront restaurant. You're invited, obviously. But here's my suggestion. Bring the jewelry. Give it to her then. In front of everyone. Make it a moment. That way, there's no more fighting, no more tension. Just a mother giving her daughter what her father wanted her to have." He walked to the door, turned back. "Or don't come at all. Your choice." After he left, I sat at my kitchen table for a long time. The pie dough dried out. I didn't care. I called my lawyer, Mr. Chen, a patient man who'd handled Thomas's estate and mine for 20 years. "Dorothy," he said when I told him what happened, "I need to tell you something. Brandon came to see me last week." "What?" He wanted to know the exact terms of Thomas's will. Specifically, whether there was any way to bypass your control of the jewelry. I told him no. The will is ironclad. You have complete discretion. Did he threaten legal action? Not explicitly. But Dorothy, I've been doing this a long time. When a son-in-law starts asking about inheritance terms while his mother-in-law is alive and healthy, it's not a good sign. What should I do? Document everything, every conversation, every request, every interaction, and whatever you do, don't give him access to those pieces until you're absolutely certain of his intentions. The birthday party was at a restaurant on Boston Harbor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water. White tablecloths. Champagne. 40 people I mostly didn't know. Sarah's work friends, Brandon's colleagues, people from their social circle who dressed like they'd stepped out of magazines. I wore a simple navy dress, pearls Thomas gave me on our 20th anniversary. I brought a birthday gift, a photo album I'd made of Sarah's childhood. Pictures of her in this garden, at the beach, on Christmas mornings. I thought she'd like it. I thought she'd remember. Brandon saw me arrive. He whispered something to Sarah. She nodded, smiled that tight smile I'd been seeing more lately. They approached together, her hand on his arm. "Mom," Sarah said, kissing my cheek, "I'm so glad you came." Of course, sweetheart. Happy birthday. Did you bring it? Brandon asked. Not hello, not how are you. Just that. Bring what? Don't play games, Dorothy. Did you bring the jewelry? I brought a gift for my daughter. His jaw clenched. You're unbelievable. I told you. I specifically told you this was the moment to do the right thing. And I brought a gift I thought she'd appreciate. Sarah's face fell. Mom, Brandon thought you agreed. Brandon thought wrong. They were starting to cause a scene. People were glancing over. Brandon noticed, smiled at them, then lowered his voice. Fine, we'll talk about this later, but I'm done playing your games. The dinner was excruciating. I sat between people I didn't know who talked about stock portfolios and vacation homes in the Hamptons. Sarah sat at the head table with Brandon, and every time I caught her eye, she looked away. After the main course, Brandon stood up with his champagne glass. I want to make a toast, he said. The room quieted. To my beautiful wife on her 37th birthday. Sarah, you are the most amazing woman I know. Patient, loving, generous. You deserve the world. You deserve everything your father wanted you to have. He looked directly at me. Everything. People clapped. I didn't. Then Brandon continued. Sarah's father, Thomas, was a wise man. He knew how important family legacy is. He knew that treasures should be passed down from generation to generation. He made provisions for that. He made promises. Pause. Some people honor those promises. Some people don't. The room got uncomfortable. Sarah tugged at his sleeve. He ignored her. Dorothy, he said, my name sharp in his mouth. You're here tonight because you're family. You're here because Sarah loves you, despite everything. So I'm going to ask you, in front of all these witnesses, in front of Sarah's friends and family, will you finally give your daughter what belongs to her? Will you honor Thomas's wishes? Or will you continue to hold those pieces hostage? Every eye in the room turned to me. 40 people, watching, waiting. Sarah's face was red. She looked like she wanted to disappear. This was her birthday party, and her husband had turned it into an ambush. I stood up slowly. My legs felt shaky, but I made them steady. I picked up my purse. I looked at my daughter. Sarah, I said quietly, happy birthday, sweetheart. I love you. Then I looked at Brandon. Thomas's wishes were that I decide when Sarah is ready, and she's not ready. Not while she's married to someone who would humiliate her mother at her own birthday party to get what he wants. The room went silent. Brandon's face turned red. Either give Sarah what's rightfully hers, or admit you never loved her. I love her more than you ever could. That's why I'm saying no. I walked out. Behind me, I heard voices rising. Sarah crying, Brandon yelling. I didn't look back. I got in my car and drove home with shaking hands and tears I wouldn't let fall until I was safely in my own driveway. The next morning, Sarah called. Her voice was cold. Mom, that was unforgivable. Sarah. No! You humiliated me. You humiliated Brandon. In front of everyone we know. Do you have any idea how that felt? Do you have any idea how it felt to be ambushed at your birthday party? Brandon was just trying to make you see reason. By turning your birthday into a public shaming? You're being dramatic, he asked a simple question. Nothing about last night was simple, Sarah. Silence. Then, Brandon thinks we should take legal action. He says there might be grounds to challenge the will, to argue that you're not executing Dad's wishes properly. My heart stopped. Are you serious? I'm just telling you what he said. And what do you say? More silence. I say I'm tired, Mom. I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of feeling like I have to choose between my husband and my mother. I'm tired of being treated like a child who can't be trusted with her own inheritance. You can be trusted. He can't. You don't even know him. I know enough. I know he showed up at my house and threatened me. I know he ambushed me at your party. I know he's been pressuring you for months about jewelry he's never even seen. Because it's my inheritance. It's our family's history. And your father knew the difference. That's why he gave me the authority to decide. Then decide, Mom. Decide now. Give me the jewelry or lose me. Your choice. The line went dead. I sat in my quiet house for hours. The photo album I'd made for Sarah sat on my coffee table. Unwrapped. Unappreciated. I opened it slowly. Looked at the pictures. Sarah at 3. Covered in mud from the garden. Sarah at 8, missing her front teeth. Sarah at 16, in her prom dress, looking at me like I was the most important person in the world. When did I stop being that person? The answer came to me clearly. When Brandon decided I was an obstacle, I called Mr. Chen. "I need to see you today." We met at his office. I told him everything. The threats, the public humiliation, Sarah's ultimatum. Mr. Chen listened carefully, taking notes. Then he said, "Dorothy, I'm going to be very direct with you. I've been researching Brandon's background. Would you like to know what I found?" "Yes." "He's in debt. Serious debt. Gambling, mostly. Online poker, casino trips, sports betting. He's good at hiding it. But I have a friend who's a forensic accountant. Brandon owes approximately $200,000 to various creditors, some of them not particularly nice people." The room spun. "Does Sarah know?" "I don't think so. He's been hiding the statements, probably intercepting mail. But Dorothy, $375,000 in jewelry would solve all his problems. That's not a coincidence." "What should I do?" "First, make absolutely certain those pieces are secure. Not in your house, not anywhere Brandon could access. Second, I'm going to draft a revised will. If anyone contests your decisions about the jewelry, if anyone tries to force you to hand them over, the entire collection goes to the Museum of Fine Arts. Not to Sarah, not to Brandon, to the museum. That's the nuclear option, but it protects you from coercion. But that means Sarah might never get them. Better than Brandon getting them, wouldn't you say?" I signed the papers that afternoon. The new will was ironclad. Any attempt to legally force my hand, any lawsuit, any claim of incompetence, and the jewelry became public property. I felt sick doing it, but I felt relieved too. Now there was nothing to steal. Sarah didn't call for 2 weeks. I tried calling her, texting. Nothing. On the 15th day, I drove to her house in Brookline, that beautiful Victorian she and Brandon bought 2 years ago. I had a key, but I knocked. No answer. I let myself in. "Sarah?" The house was quiet. Too quiet. Mail piled up on the hall table, dishes in the sink. Something felt wrong. I found Sarah in the bedroom, still in her bathrobe at 2 in the afternoon. Her eyes were red from crying. "Mom," she said, her voice breaking. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" And then she told me everything. How Brandon had been distant lately. How he'd been getting mysterious phone calls. How last night, a man had shown up at their door, a big man with cold eyes, asking for Brandon. How Brandon had scrambled to hide something on his computer. How when she asked what was going on, he'd yelled at her for the first time ever, told her to mind her own business, to stop being so needy. "I think he's in trouble, Mom. I think he's hiding something from me." I sat next to her, put my arm around her. "I think so too, baby. But he won't tell me what. He just keeps saying everything will be fine once we have the jewelry, that selling it will solve everything, that you're being cruel by making us wait." My heart broke. "Sarah, there's something you need to know," I told her. "About Mr. Chen's research, about the gambling, about the debt, about how the jewelry was never about her inheritance. It was about Brandon's desperation." She didn't want to believe me. Of course she didn't, but I showed her the documentation Mr. Chen had given me, bank statements Brandon thought were hidden, credit card bills he'd diverted, evidence of online gambling accounts in his name. Sarah stared at the papers. Her hands were shaking. He told me his finances were perfect. He told me he was managing our money brilliantly. He lied, sweetheart. But why? Why would he lie to me? Because people in desperate situations do desperate things, and that jewelry represented an easy solution. She cried then, deep-wrenching sobs that reminded me of when she was a little girl with a skinned knee. I held her the same way I did back then, rocking her, telling her it would be okay, even though we both knew nothing felt okay right now. "What do I do?" "Mom, you protect yourself. You talk to a lawyer. You separate your finances. You find out the truth. But I love him. I know you do. But love doesn't mean letting someone destroy you." That evening, Brandon came home early. He found us in the kitchen, Sarah's face still blotchy from crying, documents spread across the table. "What the hell is this?" he demanded. "The truth," I said. His eyes went wild when he saw the papers. You went digging into my private finances? That's illegal. That's invasion of privacy. It's called due diligence, I said calmly. And it's perfectly legal when you're trying to protect your daughter from a con artist. I am not, he stopped, looked at Sarah. Baby, listen to me. This is all a misunderstanding. These are old debts. I was going to tell you. When? Sarah asked quietly. When were you going to tell me you owe $200,000? It's under control. Is it? Because men showed up at our house. Big, scary men asking for you. Is that under control? They're just... Don't lie to me anymore, Brandon. Please. Just don't. He changed tactics then, dropped to his knees in front of her. Okay, yes, I have some debts. I made some bad investments. But that's why we need the jewelry, Sarah. That's why it's so important. We sell those pieces, we pay off everything, we start fresh. Your mom is sitting on a fortune that could save our marriage, and she won't help us. Save your marriage? I stood up. Or save your skin? This is none of your business. It became my business when you started manipulating my daughter to steal her inheritance. It's not stealing if it's hers. But it's not, is it? You never wanted Sarah to have that jewelry. You wanted to sell it before she could stop you. That's why you pushed so hard for her to get it immediately. That's why you humiliated us at her birthday party. You were getting desperate. Brandon stood, his face dark with rage. You smug, bitter old woman. You just can't stand that Sarah has a real life, a real relationship with a real man. So you poison her against me. You make her doubt me. You ruin everything. I didn't ruin anything. You did that yourself. He lunged. Not at me, but at Sarah's purse on the counter. He grabbed it, started digging through it frantically. Where is it? He shouted. Where's the key to the safe deposit box? Sarah stood. I don't have it. Liar. Your mother gave it to you years ago. I've seen it on your keychain. I gave it back to Mom last month. When you started asking about it constantly, the look on his face was pure fury. He turned to me. Give it to me. Give me that key right now, or I swear to God. Or what? I asked quietly. What will you do, Brandon? Hit me? Threaten me? In front of your wife? He was breathing hard, fists clenched. For a moment, I thought he might actually do it. But Sarah stepped between us. Get out, she said. What? Get out of this house. Now. Sarah, you don't mean that. I mean it. Get out, go to a hotel, go anywhere. But don't be here when I wake up tomorrow. He looked between us, calculating. Then he grabbed his keys. Fine. But this isn't over. Those pieces are legally Sarah's inheritance. I'll sue. I'll get lawyers. You'll lose, I said. Because I changed my will yesterday. Any legal action against me, any lawsuit, any attempt to claim incompetence, and every single piece goes to the Museum of Fine Arts. Sarah gets nothing. You get nothing. It becomes public property. His face went white. You wouldn't. I already did. The papers are signed, notarized, filed. You have two choices now. Walk away with nothing, or push me and guarantee Sarah loses everything. Your move. He looked at Sarah one last time. She didn't look back. He slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. Sarah and I sat in silence for a long time. Finally, she said, I'm sorry, Mom. For what? For not listening, for choosing him over you, for believing his lies about you being controlling. You loved him. That's not something to apologize for. But you tried to warn me. And I called you bitter, cruel, selfish. You were protecting your marriage. That's what we're supposed to do. She started crying again. What do I do now? Now you get a lawyer. You file for divorce. You protect yourself. And you heal. I don't know if I can. You can. You're my daughter. You're stronger than you think. The divorce took 14 months. Brandon fought everything. He tried to claim the jewelry as marital property. He tried to argue that Thomas's will should be overturned. He hired expensive lawyers who dragged me into depositions, questioned my mental competence, suggested I was manipulating Sarah against him. Mr. Chen destroyed every argument. The jewelry was never marital property. It remained mine under Thomas's will until I chose to gift it. And I was sharper in those depositions than I'd been in years, reciting dates, details, documentation. No judge would find me incompetent. Brandon's gambling debts became public record during discovery. Turns out, he'd been stealing from his clients too. His fancy job disappeared. His Porsche got repossessed. He had to move into a studio apartment in Malden. Meanwhile, his creditors kept circling. Sarah moved back home with me during the divorce. We spent evenings in the garden like when she was young. We baked pies. We talked. She cried a lot at first, mourning the life she thought she had. But slowly, she started to heal. "I keep thinking about that birthday party," she said one evening, 6 months after Brandon left. "How humiliated I felt. How I blamed you for it." "It's okay." "No, it's not. He weaponized me, Mom. He used my birthday, my friends, everything, to try to force your hand, and I let him. I actually called you and gave you an ultimatum. You were trying to save your marriage. I was choosing the wrong person." She looked at me. "Dad knew, didn't he? That's why he wrote the will that way. He knew someone might come along and try to use me. Your father knew you had a good heart. That's not a weakness, Sarah. It's your best quality. But he also knew that good hearts can be exploited. I don't feel very good. You will. Eventually." The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday in November, 18 months after that birthday party. Sarah and I went to lunch after the court hearing. She ordered champagne. "Is this weird?" she asked. "Celebrating my divorce?" "You're not celebrating the divorce. You're celebrating freedom." She clinked her glass against mine. "To freedom, and to the smartest, strongest woman I know." "Who's that?" "You, Mom. Obviously you." I smiled. I had good days and bad days. There were nights I doubted everything. Times I wondered if I should have just given him the jewelry to keep peace. "But you didn't." "No. Because your father trusted me to protect you. Even from yourself if necessary. Even if it meant you hated me for a while. I never hated you. You came close." She laughed, but her eyes were wet. "I'm sorry I put you through that." "Don't be. You're my daughter. I'd go through it 1,000 times if it meant saving you." We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Sarah said, "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "The jewelry. Are you ever going to give it to me?" I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. The woman who'd survived a manipulative marriage and come out stronger, who'd learned to recognize red flags, who'd chosen herself over comfort, who'd grown. "Yes," I said, "when you're ready." "When will that be?" "Soon. Maybe sooner than you think." 2 years after the divorce, Sarah met someone new. James, a high school teacher, kind eyes, gentle voice, drove a 12-year-old Honda Civic. He loved books and hiking and made terrible jokes that somehow made Sarah laugh until she cried. They dated for a year before he proposed with a modest ring he'd saved for months to buy. They got married in my garden, the same one where Sarah used to make daisy chains. 20 people, simple ceremony, homemade cake, no champagne fountains, no designer dresses. Just love and joy and the kind of celebration that doesn't need money to be real. The night before the wedding, I gave Sarah a small wooden box. "What's this?" she asked. "Open it." Inside was the key to the safe deposit box. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. "Mom, are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything. You're ready, sweetheart. You've always been ready to receive them. You just needed to be ready to protect them too, and now you are." What if she paused? What if James turns out to be another Brandon? He won't. But if he does, you'll know what to do. You'll know the difference between a partner and a parasite, between love and manipulation. Your father's will says the jewelry goes to you when I feel you're ready. You're ready. She hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "Thank you. For protecting me, for not giving up on me, for being patient when I was being stupid. You weren't stupid. You were in love. There's a difference. Is there? With the right person?" "Yes. With Brandon?" "No." She laughed through her tears. "I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby." The next day, Sarah wore the necklace at her wedding. The diamonds caught the sunlight. The sapphires matched her eyes. 5 generations of women had worn those pieces, and now my daughter joined them. But more importantly, she understood what they meant. Not wealth, not status, not something to be sold when times got hard. They were witnesses to survival, to strength, to the kind of love that says no when necessary and yes when earned. I saw Brandon once more, 3 years after the divorce. He was in a grocery store parking lot, loading bags into a beat-up sedan. He'd gained weight, lost hair, looked 10 years older than he was. He saw me, froze. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Then, he walked over. "Dorothy," he said. His voice was different, smaller. "Brandon, I heard Sarah got married again." "She did." "Good, that's good. She deserves to be happy." He paused. "I was wrong. About everything. I let my problems become hers. I used her. I tried to use you. And I lost everything because of it." "Yes, you did. The jewelry. She has it now? That's none of your business." "Right, of course." He looked down. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want you to know that I know what I did. And I'm sorry, for whatever that's worth. It's worth very little. But it's something." He nodded, got in his car, drove away. I watched him go and felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, not even pity. Just peace. My name is Dorothy. I'm 67 years old now. Sarah and James have a daughter they named Thomas, after her grandfather, Tommy, they call her. She's 3 years old with Sarah's eyes and James's laugh, and she loves my garden. Last week, Sarah brought her over for lunch. Tommy ran through the roses while Sarah and I drank iced tea on the porch. "Mom," Sarah said, "I've been thinking about the jewelry." "Oh?" "When Tommy's old enough, when I think she's ready, I want to give her one piece, maybe the ring, and I want her to know the whole story. About Grandpa Thomas, about you, about Brandon, about why these things matter beyond their price." "What will you tell her?" Sarah smiled. "I'll tell her that legacy isn't about money. It's about knowing when to hold on and when to let go. It's about protecting the people you love, even when they don't understand why. It's about the difference between a price tag and a value. Your father would be proud." "I hope so. But Mom, I need you to know something. That jewelry, it was never about the jewelry. It was about you. About the woman who loved me enough to let me hate her for a while. Who stood firm when I needed boundaries even though I fought them. Who saw through Brandon when I couldn't. Who protected not just my inheritance, but me." I felt tears sliding down my face. "That's what mothers do." "No, that's what exceptional mothers do, and I'm going to try to be half as good as you." Tommy ran up to us then, dirt on her face, dandelions in her fist. "Grandma, look what I found." I pulled her onto my lap. "They're beautiful, sweetheart." Sarah looked at us, took a picture with her phone. 3 generations of women in a garden, holding weeds like treasures. Later, she'd frame that picture. Years from now, Tommy would look at it and ask for the story. And Sarah would tell her about the jewelry box that almost tore our family apart but ultimately brought us closer. About the mother who said no until yes meant something. About the legacy that was never about diamonds but about dignity. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is making them wait for what they want until they understand what they need. I learned that from Thomas. I taught it to Sarah. And someday, Sarah will teach it to Tommy. The jewelry is locked safely in Sarah's safe deposit box now, next to her own will that says the same thing Thomas has said. When Tommy is ready, not when she wants them, when she's ready for them. Ready to understand that some things are worth more than their weight in gold. That family is measured not in carats but in courage. That love sometimes says no. I don't know how many years I have left, but I know this. When I die, I'll die in peace, knowing that I did what Thomas asked me to do. I protected our daughter. I protected our legacy. And I taught Sarah the most important lesson, that you can't let people steal your peace to purchase their problems. Brandon lives in Florida now, remarried to a woman 20 years younger. According to social media, she's wealthy. He's back to his expensive suits and big promises. The pattern repeats because people like that never really change. They just find new victims. But Sarah isn't a victim anymore. She's a warrior who fought for herself and won. She's a mother teaching her daughter about strength. She's a woman who knows the difference between a stone's price and a stone's worth. And me? I'm just a mother who did what mothers do. I held on when I needed to hold on. I let go when it was time to let go. And I loved my daughter enough to be the villain in her story for a while so she could become the hero of her own. That's all any of us can do. Protect what matters, wait for wisdom, trust that time reveals truth, and know that diamonds are just rocks until they're earned. My name is Dorothy. I am 67 years old, and this is the story of how I almost lost my daughter to save her life. Sometimes love means saying no, and sometimes the most precious inheritance isn't what we leave behind, but what we teach others to protect.